kind of to suggest that. Baker's obviously, I'm using Baker's camera that he sent me, getting all these above average hand-me-downs. It's great.
Nice. Right, guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast. My name is Adam, and Baker is red flagged. So I've got with us this evening somebody everybody knows, a good friend of ours, Danny, aka Bullet, aka Move, aka something else probably. Danny, how you doing, mate? You right?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, mate. Cheers for having me on. Just thinking, I was just like replacing Baker tonight. I had to replace Harry on Burning Questions a few months ago, and now Baker on here. It's not easy. I feel like I'm going to be losing all these hard-earned followers of these popular podcasts. But yeah,
you'll be fine. No, mate. We love having you here. We love listening to your opinions and what you have to say, and it's good to have. I saw a tweet. There was a tweet that I was tagged in a couple of days ago about content creators getting content creators on to talk about things while you're on podcasts, and you don't create any content. You're just a good manager, right? You're just a very good manager. So, it's good to have it's good to have you on. Honestly, hopefully that person that tagged me they'll be satisfied with this little change up.
Yeah, I remember the tweet actually. Now that you say it, so I think it's actually one of my SOAG SKW teammates, SKLW teammates actually. Stu, I think. But yeah, good on.
It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, game week 21, team selection, basically the normal format. We've got a couple of graphics showing bits from the weekend upcoming, and then we will go on to all of our teams and let you know what we're thinking, what we've got left to do, what we've done already, and yeah, hopefully that should be plenty. It's obviously a very busy week, a very interesting week, lots of injuries, early transfers killing people and stuff like that, which has been, I don't know, amusing. Do you like it when that sort of thing happens? Do you enjoy it?
What was that? Sorry, I was just having a coffee.
About early transfers, when people start making early transfers and then shit hits the fan, and
yeah, that's been the hot topic of the week, hasn't it? And I think I've been part of that as well. But yeah, I mean, it is amusing. It's just one of those things. I think people have felt that some people have been a bit preachy about it, which is totally fair enough. And I just think you've got to just laugh and kind of have fun about it. I was of the view that this was not the week to make early transfers for various reasons. And yeah, I mean, it is unlucky for those who brought people like Bowen in and they've got injured, but it's one of those things. I mean, I've got 2 free transfers and I'm going to have to take a hit this week because I've got loads of injuries anyway. So,
It's a difficult one. I mean, the Bowen one, like this is how I viewed it anyway, because I made one transfer that's, I wouldn't say early. I did it a couple of days ago or last night. I can't remember. But I wouldn't consider it early because there was no information for me to get from making the transfer. I transferred out a player that's not going to be playing for the next 4 or 5 weeks. It's a crap player anyway, and I was transferring in a player who's playing in the last game of the game week. So, he's currently training out in Dubai at the moment, getting some warm weather, sun, and a bit of a light jog, and sunning it up at Jumeirah Beach or whatever. So, I felt like there's no information that could have come to me that would have changed what I wanted to do. The Bowen one, I think people who did it made their own bed in some ways. Like, if you brought him in before he played in the FA Cup, then, you take that risk. And if you bring him in after he's been injured in the FA Cup, then you take that risk. I think with him specifically, I think it was more of a case of I have less sympathy. If you had him already, then that's horrible. But, less sympathy if you brought Bowen specifically in.
Yeah, I agree. Again, people have made the case that kind of, the only information to glean from that particular specific transfer was whether Bowen might get injured or not. And I personally don't really agree with that view. Lots can change. And obviously, you might get injuries to Haaland or to Trent or to whoever else, big players that might change your subsequent transfers and so on. So it wasn't just that, but yeah, as
That's
I said,
fair.
Bowen, he still had another game to play as well. So yeah, I personally think that people overvalue, the value of team value and so on, especially at this stage of the season.
It's weird though, because I'm sitting on, I mean, I don't know what your team value's like. I'm sitting like on 105 point something. It will go down when Salah and Son leave my team for sure. But, I was looking at a mini league that me and Baker are in, and, between us and our mates, and, Baker's now top in that league, but obviously I'm struggling still. But I'm looking at my team value 105 point X or whatever, and the guys that I'm chasing have 102, 103, and I'm thinking, surely that just pays in 10 weeks' time. Surely there's ways in which I can maneuver my team that just is better than they'll be able to do it, and I'll be able to get players that they can't. I've got to trust, I guess, that like the big hitters and the sort of mid-premium guys, hit, and I can reach them and they can't. But the problem is, obviously, we've got some good priced assets that are doing well this year, and we've got good ones that people are bringing in. People are looking at bringing in Richarlisons and the like, so who aren't very much money, and we don't know what's Cole Palmer obviously is, if you haven't got him, is as close to essential as you can given the price still. So yeah, it's just gonna be interesting to see if I can make up that gap.
The classic one it always reminds me of that year was like 2 or 3 years ago, wasn't it, when people who had good team value, it happens all the time, there's always another option, but that one where people who had Diaz and then people who couldn't afford Diaz had to go for John Stones, and he got 27 points in the double game week they brought him in for.
Yeah, I did not have Stones for that one. I did not have Stones. I think Baker did, annoyingly.
Did he?
I think he might.
But yeah, I mean, like you say, it should set you up better. It certainly will on paper, and it certainly will for kind of EV or projected points. I'm sure you'll have a better team. But it's just one of those. I always think somebody pops their head up. There's always some cheaper option anyway. But
how are you looking for, like, planning for 25, 26, 29? Have you got ideas in your mind about where you might want to go with those yet?
Not massively. I do like to keep these things reasonably open, like have an idea about what's going on. I've had a look into it, and I was initially kind of thinking about, is free hit 25 an option, which it still might be. Just obviously with the kind of loading up on City and Liverpool, and then Liverpool blanking the following week, etc., etc. And I might still do that, but I'm probably leaning further away from that now. But I think the way I see it, when I've sort of briefly looked into it, is that mostly, I think, and again, but that is probably subjective, and we'll talk about when we talk about the transfers, but mostly I think that regardless really of who you bring in this week, those options are still open next week. So if and when that happens, I tend to just go, right, that's fine, then I'll think about the players that I want now and kind of long term, and then look more closely at chip plans when we get there. But in the back of my head, I always have these things in the back of my head at most. I'm not massively into that kind of. I also sometimes don't like to plan your chip strategy too much. That's probably a silly thing to say, but I don't want my transfers to be too affected by these things at 4 or 5 weeks away, which is a long way away, which again, I think we'll talk about when we talk about, our moves this week and City players or whatnot. But yeah, I've got in the back of my head probably the wildcard 30 or 31 strategy that people have been talking about.
Yeah, I mean,
after dead ending into 29.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't know what we don't have any certainty. I think once we get like round 5 draw, I think then things will start to open up as well. I think at the same time, like, we're all sitting with millions and millions of pounds. Well, most of us are sitting with millions and millions of pounds in the bank. So you do feel like you're just flexible. You can adjust and you can move around as you need to, I guess. I think once we start locking up that Haaland money when Salah starts coming back, if Salah comes back in 24, like it's all going to go a bit mental. I think there's going to be a few hits flying around and stuff. It could be a bit mad. And then obviously we don't know. Chelsea Spurs could be a game in 26. Like it just could be. It could just be a game if Middlesbrough hold on. I think it was important, like that Liverpool got the win for that game in terms of being a double. Like they'd want to take a lead down to Craven Cottage for sure. So, we'll see what happens next week with those games. But
I also think again, just from kind of my overview of it, of looking at it, is that the nice thing about with Salah and Son being out and potentially for some Trent is that I think we can do, but we get the best of both. I think we can spend the money and get exciting players and still be flexible, still have still actually maneuver it in such a way that we can plan for how we get Salah back in relatively easily. In most cases, I think a bit like what happened when we thought Haaland was injured, which he was, and we had to make the decision then of whether to sell Haaland. And for me, it was relatively straightforward about how to get him back, which makes it a lot easier. So yeah, I think the nice thing is it's going to be pretty open, pretty flexible for us.
Cool. Well, let's just say hello to everyone in the chat. So we have, I don't know how many people we have, a couple of hundred people already. Lovely. Nice to see you all. Heather's saying thanks. Got my coasters. Thank you very much, Heather. No, they're good. Gross cap, maybe. That's interesting. I saw a Doughty cap somewhere. Somebody was touting that around. You know what? I think if Burnley were at home, I think I would have smiled a bit more at that one. I think, if Luton were at home to Burnley, but they're away. So, Jammer is in minus 30 degrees in Western Canada. Nice. That is cold, man. That's cold. And yeah, plenty of people about. Although if the chat's moving, I can't seem to see it. I think my chat's buggered, but that's absolutely fine.
I'll get it up as well. I'll try and get it up.
Yeah. So I guess the normal thing is to say, if you do enjoy the content that Baker and I do, and obviously Danny joining me tonight, then you do like the video, make sure you drop a like on that video. Make sure you tell people and show that support. That'd be really appreciated. And if you want to see more from us, hit the subscribe button. That would be great. If you're listening on podcast, make sure you drop a review, 5 stars, all that good stuff. We would be really appreciative of it. And I guess we can just kind of just move on to the games if you want, mate. If we just want to start working our way through. You've grabbed yourself a beer and you seem quite relaxed about it. So
yeah, I'm pretty chilled. Are we doing games? Are we? Oh yeah, okay. This games.
Yeah, we do games first. We do games first. So I guess really. So for the benefit of those listening, we're looking at the graphic that we always do on a Thursday, which is the the expected goals in each game from Rob T FPL on X. And one thing that Baker and I were saying at the weekend with Mark Southerns when we had him was that we weren't sure whether there'd be many games with like projected to have over 2 goals, and we thought it'd be a pretty close matchup, and we're seeing that here. I mean, there are some teams that there are. I mean, Chelsea at home to Fulham, City away at Newcastle, even United are close at 1.9 at home to Spurs, Arsenal 2.2 at home to Palace. That's the biggest gap as we expected, and even like Liverpool 2.1 away to Bournemouth and Brighton 2.05 at home to Wolves. But only Palace have less than 1 expected goal for them, which is quite surprising. There's normally some wider markets here.
And that I suppose says something to me straight away about the defenders, I suppose, and the discussion of whether to sell Trent or not, which a lot of people seem to be doing. It's not for me, but that kind of feeds into what I generally think about defenders at the moment outside of Trent. It doesn't look fantastic on paper, does it?
No. No, it looks like it's going to be a difficult one. And I suppose, look, most of us were sitting on probably mainly attacking players plus Arsenal defenders anyway. So whether we've got a Trent, who's obviously not going to play, but attacking player, Pedro Porro, we're going to have Gabriel Salibas. Estupiñán's are starting to come into the fold now. I mean, even if you think of like your Charlie Taylors, he's obviously attacking fullback. Some people are still holding on to Cash, and there's some walkers around now as well. So and Trips, of course. Yeah,
I'm going to have to play Trips this weekend, unfortunately. No, it's a good mix, and I just think there's I mean, all of these fixtures could go either way, which is why it's going to be a really interesting week, especially when we think about captaincy and we think about midfielders that we want to bring in as well, especially. It seems to me there's at least a few opportunities there to me, particularly like obviously the Chelsea fixture and the Arsenal fixture. Envious of those who's got double Arsenal defence this week, because I haven't. And I like the United Spurs fixture, amongst others. And I like that fixture a lot.
For FPL or for United?
For FPL. I don't think you can ever like a fixture for United at the moment, but I do. I mean, again, we'll talk about moves shortly, but I quite like it for United as well. I mean, obviously, I guess that's got us favourites, which is interesting. But I think that'll be a really fun game, and I expect it, and I hope, based on the moves that I'm going to make this week, that it's full of goals.
Fair. So, that sounds ominous.
Yeah. I'm not sure how popular my moves are going to be on the stream, but yeah, and the Newcastle City game is interesting because I don't write Newcastle off at all. I know they're going through a terrible patch, but they look good the last game, and then they're starting to get rest now and play once a week, and that obviously City are favourites, but I don't expect it to be a walkover.
I mean, especially at home, like especially at home, they don't the fans don't allow it almost, and they are. It's weird how polarising both Newcastle and I guess Villa are home and away. Yeah, I mean, it's a game. It's a game certainly where I can see Newcastle getting chances as well. I mean, City defensively over the last month at least haven't been fantastic. They haven't kept many cleans all season really, but there's definitely opportunities there for Isak, for Gordon, to get chances. So. Yeah, this is what I mean. I'm talking like as a person who owns Gordon now, and I was thinking like, if I took a -4, for example, if I got that far, then Gordon would be the first person that I would bench. But I just don't feel it's necessary to get there. I guess I'm more pushed on my sort of 11th player, I guess. But we can talk about that in a bit. I think City will win the game. As you say, I don't think it will be by a canter at all. I think it kind of feels like a 2-1, 3-1 type game. Which, I mean, as stupid as it sounds, that's exactly what it looks like on the screen here.
Yeah. Although, as I say, anything could happen. There'll be surprises. You'd have to bet on City to win. But yeah, Newcastle are a good team, so anything could happen at home there. And obviously City without, De Bruyne still, I guess, and Haaland and so on. But
yes.
I like Gordon at the moment. Obviously, it's difficult this weekend, but it's a really interesting one because people are, this is the week people are choosing the midfielders, and Gordon's a really nice pick for the next few weeks. Straight away after this, even away at Villa, I think it's a good game for Newcastle. I know it's a tough game, but it's a good fixture for goals, I think. And Gordon's just an underrated player. He's a guy who's absolutely nailed in the front three for Newcastle, and he's got numbers. He's scoring goals. It's actually a really interesting one to me because I'd be very happy if I owned him. When again we'll talk about moves and we think about all the problems with other midfielders and issues with potentially minutes for people like Foden or Richarlison and so on. There's no issues with Gordon. He's a really solid pick for these next few weeks.
I mean, I think he's played himself to a point where even when Barnes comes back, it's really like Barnes will play second fiddle to him, and it might chuck his minutes down a touch, but he's. I wasn't sure what to expect when obviously Gordon went. Was it January last year or year before, or end of season before? But obviously he's played his way in now, and he looks really comfortable there, and he's doing good things. I mean, he's really direct as well, and that's the sort of thing that will hurt City when they get chances. Is just a counter attack, right? That's where they can punish them potentially.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like it. Yeah, he's a solid pick. He seems to be, Howe likes him as well. He's a big sort of strong lad these days as well, and he just looks solid and robust.
Yeah, definitely.
I like the Bournemouth Liverpool fixture as well. Just looking at it here because I'm always sort of quietly optimistic as a Solanke owner, and I know obviously again, quite obviously Liverpool are favourites for this game, but I don't expect a Liverpool clean sheet. Just kind of spewing out my gut reaction to what I think about the fixtures. I don't expect Liverpool to get a clean sheet. I'm definitely quietly confident about Solanke in that fixture because Bournemouth look really good, especially at home. Obviously, Liverpool missing a load of players. So I think there'll be goals in that game. I really think there'll be goals in that game. And then the other ones are just hard to read. Brighton Wolves, I think, is pretty hard to read. Sheffield West Ham looks like a 1-0 Sheffield United, maybe. Sorry, Richie. Yeah, and Brentford, Tony back Saturday night.
Yeah, that could be fun. I tell you what, I do find it strange how far they've kind of dropped off though. This feels like it's like the game they need, like the fixture they need, to try and get some momentum back or something, some kind of random rubbish like that. Because Tony will want to start well. Definitely, he's been talking it up as well. Like he's been talking it up. He's been like, "I'm back" and all this sort of stuff. I want to repay the fans, etc., for being so patient and all those that supported me. I wouldn't I wouldn't mind a punt on Tony anytime.
Absolutely, and you know what as well. Thinking about it now, just thinking as we're talking through these games and fixtures, one of the really interesting things this week is the wild card, and I think. We don't know the numbers, but I suspect a hell of a lot of people are on wildcard because of all the flags and injuries. And obviously, a lot of people made early transfers. I do think we're going to see a lot of wildcards this week. And it's a really interesting one because if you're going to wildcard, in my view, you just pick, the logical best players. You go for the opportunity, which obviously could massively backfire. So take, for example, talking about those two fixtures. I haven't thought about wildcard because obviously I'm not on wildcard and I'm just not even in that space. But I would have thought that it makes a lot of sense to have certainly João Pedro.
Yeah.
And then, I can't remember. I know maybe Brentford haven't got great fixtures after this week, but you'd want to be on Tony.
How about this? Here's some fixtures to work it out for you. Yeah. I mean, Brentford's fixtures aren't fantastic. They're not great. They're kind of, they go Spurs, then City. Like in the next 5, fine, they get Forest, and then it's Spurs, City, and Liverpool 3 out of the next 4.
So the next two look good for goals at least. No offense to Spurs.
No, Spurs away is fine for goals.
So this is it. If you take a solid Watkins against Everton, really solid. Perfectly happy to have him. Very optimistic. Solanke, very happy to have him. Really solid. But on a wild card, you'd think certainly João Pedro, and then if you wanted to go to Tony as well, this could just be a massive swing one way or the other, and that's probably the case with quite a few players. I think wildcarders have got to just go for it. I imagine their teams would be very different to kind of the template team at the moment on that basis, and you might have Gross in there, and obviously picks like Foden, Richarlison, all those guys, and Estupiñán. You're backing all these guys straight away. But I hadn't really thought about that until now. That wildcards should, if they do the way I would do it, they should have very different teams.
Yeah, they should have 3. I mean, they should be sitting on 3 Brighton for sure. They will have to have plans in for Liverpool and City players. I mean, they can get the City players they want, and even just leave the money for Haaland if they want. Because I would even do that. I mean, I know people say it, like from game week 1, like people say, "Oh, don't book in transfers because stuff will happen." Like I would probably just punt it and go, right, I'll have Tony this week, Haaland next week, and I'll just go Tony to Haaland, and then work from there, and just have that as an accepted transfer that's going to happen. If I need to take a -4 to do everything else, I'll accept that the punt didn't work, type thing, and I kind of just go from there if I can. But
yeah, I would as well. And obviously, I don't like to book in transfers, but when you think about all the players people got flagged at the moment, squads are struggling. So if you wildcard, you should really have 15 solid players. So it shouldn't be a problem if you do get 1 or 2 injuries, next week anyway.
So you shouldn't have any flags going into the game week.
Yeah. But also we're all booking in Haaland next week, pretty much. I certainly am. We've just seen some pictures, haven't we, released just now of him in training. So he is actually in training, or at least it looks that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all booking in transfers. So why not do it on wildcard again? You know, the game is so tough these days. It's so tight. You don't get many opportunities. So if you're going to wildcard this week, take all the opportunities that you can get because they're all logical. They're all supported by data and supported by odds. You know, if you want to get Ivan Toney, well, he should do really well. You know, he's been playing games behind the scenes. I know he might not be fully match fit, but I'd be quietly confident about him because he has been playing a lot of games. You know, under 23s and all that.
And he's good. He's because he's a striker. He'll nick in, and even in consolations against teams that, like Tottenham, for example, is a perfect example. Tottenham with no striker, you know, Tony scores, and it's almost guaranteed to be a 9-point goal, 8-point goal, something. Or not an 8-point goal, but an 8-point return because he'll get bonus as well because there's no challenge, right? There's no challenge from elsewhere because Tottenham score one, and it's a midfielder and. You know, there's bits and pieces, but generally speaking, if there's no clean sheets, obviously the defenders are pretty much out of the question. So he's, you know, they've got opportunities there, like Wolves as well, I guess.
Plus his pens are like, they're not 0.76 XG, they're like 0.99 XG probably.
Yeah,
that helps.
It helps. So yeah, back to the game. So captaincy. Obviously, there's two games that stick out because you've got two home teams, excluding Brighton, I guess. But you've got two home teams. You've got Arsenal and Chelsea that are going to be heavily favoured, which they are. Highest chances of clean sheets across the game week, and the highest chances of scoring the most goals. We've already seen that Palmer has like a high ceiling. He does. We know that. And Saka has been ticking along, I guess, in terms of underlying numbers, maybe not setting the world alight in total FPL points, but yeah, he's been doing okay. He's been doing fine. But again, like, you know, we got a week until Saka plays. Are you looking at Saka as? I mean, I think you've got Saka. I don't have Saka. Are you looking at Saka as well above Palmer, or do you think it's close?
No, I'm not actually. I do think it's very close, and I'm still undecided. But at the moment, I've got it on Palmer. I think it's a fascinating choice between the two. I mean, to be honest, a lot of this week, in my head, I've had it on someone else, but I've taken it off that now. We'll come to that when we talk about my moves. But I mean, I was just thinking then, I just before we came on, and this is not me trying to I'm not trying to blow a trumpet. I'm trying because I've got a point to this. But I don't know if you remember when I last came on this pod was like game week 10. Do you remember me trying to sell Palmer to you just as a pick, just to actually have him? I think it was on Wildcard.
Maybe. I don't remember.
Well, anyway, I was sort of saying how he's just the way he carries himself. You know, he's just so arrogant, and he's just got it. You know, what he did when he took the ball off Sterling. I think it was that week. You know, and he took the penalty over Sterling and all that kind of stuff. And I just think Palmer, and the reason why I say that is because it's fascinating to me because at that point I was trying to, on a kind of meta level, you know, just categorize him in my head to think about what sort of player he was to me in fantasy football and what he, you know, what potential he had. And obviously he was someone who had loads of potential and there was loads of good signs and it looked like a great, you know, cheap enabler. And that's like 8 or 9 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And his progression has been astonishing. I mean, we should know, and again, I mentioned this at Game Week 10, like we know how good of a player he is and how highly he was rated. The only reason City sold him was because he kicked off basically and said, I want to play. Pep wasn't having it. Because I remember we said this last time, City only sold, what's his name, who again, I've forgotten the name, the Spanish midfielder, Torres.
Yeah.
Ferran Torres, when he was playing so well for City, and he was just sold out of the blue. And I remember reading it at the time and why they sold him. And they basically sold him because they were so confident that Cole Palmer was going to be the one, and that was City. So it just shows you how ruthless Pep is. And then obviously he sold him. So anyway, I'm going on myself. But I just think it's actually, I've had to recategorize Palmer in my head again, how I view him as a player 2 or 3 times now in the last 10 weeks because his progression has been that much. And now, you know, even just watching the other day in the Cup, first of all, he's everything that you want in a fantasy pick. He is on paper everything you want in a fantasy pick, and it's like a few players are. And I sort of say this sometimes, but obviously, and I know these things are obvious, but you've got to think about it. So he's on all the set pieces, he's on all the corners, he's on penalties. At the moment, he's playing 90 minutes, and he's the number 10 or the striker. which so already that you've got that kind of category, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, of an amazing player and of an amazing captain. But I actually think now that he's more than that now, because a bit like I said this about Trent on another pod a few weeks ago, that you can sort of see this sudden like arrogance, and he almost knows that when I'm watching Cole Palmer now, it looks like he knows he's the best player on the team. And that's really what you want to see, like that kind of confidence and arrogance combined with all of his attributes anyway. Like he looks like, when I'm watching on the pitch, he looks like he's thinking the best thing this team can do right now is to give me the ball. And he's making runs that kind of encapsulate that, and it just looks, he's just so confident. Even when that Fulham scored in the cup, and he was just already standing in the centre circle, as if to say, looking at them all, as if to say, get on with it, because we're about to kick off, and I'm going to show you what I can do, kind of thing, which he didn't do in the end. So
I think he's a player that Poch needs to level up the squad as well. I mean, or level up the players around him as well, because prior to him, being this player, as you said, I his progression has been ridiculous on pitch, more than anything. Let alone the points that he's dragged along with him. He needs to raise the level of the team around him as well, and they need to come with him. And Poch is going to need him to, maintain that. And, you're right, he'll heavily rely on him now. I think, his desire to play football means that he went to Chelsea to be the big dog, right? He's been coached since whatever age and been playing around in the City first team and whatever. And, now looks fantastic. So he does need to drag everyone with him. And, he's doing the stuff. So as you say, right, perfect fantasy pick. And there's somebody said in the chat, like, he's only 30% owned. I mean, that was across the whole game, and that was last game week, and he was 61% owned in the top 10,000. And as of today, he's had over 1 million transfers in. So don't think for a second that he's going to be less than 100% owned in the top 10K. Don't think for a second that he's going to be. I mean, he's going to be captained by many people. He might even be over 100% in the top mill now.
Yeah, no, I think his ownership will be over 100%, and I think it will be probably, again, I haven't really thought about this, but it'll be probably the highest of any player.
He should be the highest. He should be the highest, and more so because of when he plays as well. I think Saka will be as well. I think Saka will be pretty close.
Well, yeah, again, I haven't thought about it. I don't know if it'll be close. Actually, I think there'll be quite a fair gap between them, and actually, that's what appeals to me about Saka, because, completely objectively, Saka is as good, if not the best, captaincy pick on paper, and you sort of get that free risk, don't you? Which I do like. Normally I would go for that. I would go for Saka on that basis, that there's risk that's fully supported by the data. And I don't know, I still might, but I'm struggling for that reason with Palmer. And you're right, though. It's a lot of it depends on the team around him. Potentially, Nkunku starts, even if he just gets 60, I think that's good, because he's just a very good player. So it's probably a good, someone to kind of work with for Palmer. But it's just when someone's that confident, all the decisions are right, and everything just seems to be that bit better, and you don't have any worry or doubt. There's no doubt in their mind, and you do see that reflected in kind of the type of shots that they take and the passes that they make and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He's a bit like Bruno Fernandes. Not now. People don't jump on me on that, but it's a bit like Bruno Fernandes a couple of years ago, in that sense that you never really doubted him. Bruno, he's so focused on the game and his belief in himself that he's not distracted. So he makes the right decisions and shoots at the right time and shoots on target and all that sort of stuff. So it is quite difficult to pull away from Palmer, I think. But I am still probably 55-45 Palmer, okay, which could easily change. Where are you?
So I don't own Saka. So I'm limited by, like, as my bust team sits, I'm limited by what I can do right now. So I guess if I was to bring Saka in, I would probably look to captain him, probably. But that's if I bring him in. But I don't know. It's weird. It feels like it's a close decision, but then if I'm going to bring him in and then cap him, then surely it's an obvious decision. Because I clearly see him as either because I'm either seeing him as an asset that's going to do nothing this week, or I'm going to see him as the best pick in the game this week, which feels like an odd place to be in. We can talk about why I'm contemplating that when we go through my team. So we've spoken a bit about Arsenal. Is there any other Arsenal players at all? You just thinking that we just should be happy with the one defender or two defenders that people have got. There's no one else really that's. I feel like most people have the Arsenal assets they need already.
Yeah, I'm just getting the fixtures up as well to remind me. I don't know. Like I was probably originally maybe at the start of the week, or at least maybe last week or the week before when we were planning ahead, had Odegaard pretty high up in my thoughts, and obviously that's gone down this week, just like it has for everyone else. But it has actually gone a bit back up again. Again, there's someone that I prefer, I think, to him. But when I'm thinking of him versus Foden or Richarlison, I still don't mind it at all, because I just think there's a lot there when you've got someone who's 90 minutes, guaranteed to play. What they've got: Palace, Forest away, then Liverpool, then West Ham, then Burnley. So fixtures are pretty good. Yeah. So I don't mind Odegaard at all. And again, the nice thing about Odegaard is you're picking a fantastic player from Arsenal, one of their most, or if not their most important player, an attacker, who gets 90 minutes for a great team, who's nailed and who nobody owns.
Yeah.
So people should. I just think. No, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I sound like I'm telling people what to do, but I just think I'm talking about myself about what I think I should do is just view it more positively. Which there is a lot of positives to that. That sort of player.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm envious of people who've got double Arsenal defence this week. But I don't think you spend transfers there right now. So if anyone wants to go Odegaard, I don't mind it at all. I don't mind it at all.
Cool. Couple more, and then we'll just to try and reinforce it with the players. Even though we're talking about players, we've got the sort of first weekend's projected goals for players based on the market. It's only the first weekend. Rob T wasn't able to put together the second weekend. I don't think the data's out yet, but United and Spurs. So this is a weird one. So how do you feel about Richarlison? Well,
that's certainly one of the things I was going to ask you.
Okay, fine. we can do it the other way if you want.
Yeah, I don't mind. Well, I'll while I've got it in my head, I'll sort of bat it to you, and you can tell me what you think. Because, and again, like I've probably discussions with Baker as well in the week. Obviously, he's a type of player that I like, especially when you think about comparing it to something like Foden or something like that. In my view, and again, you just go through all these afterwards and correct me, but obviously, in my view, I think he's going to start, and he's definitely going to start, and that's how I see it. And there's no problem. And obviously, he's the number 9 for Spurs, who are a brilliant attacking side, and he's probably going to take penalties. So it just looks fantastic. And earlier on in the week, I had him in my head as maybe 70 minutes, and maybe even less. And obviously, there's the Werner thing and so on. But as I say, that I chatted to Baker a few days ago as well, and asked him what he thought about that, and obviously reminded me of all the injuries you've got and where Werner might actually play, and maybe you need to play him on the left or so on, and maybe it's Kulusevski in the 10. And that the more and more I look at it, the more I think his minutes are higher than that. And obviously it seems like a relatively short-term pick, but I think quite a few people are relatively short-term picks, and I don't mind that, because if it's only 3 or 4 weeks, that's all right. And then we're going into 25, and then obviously I think maybe they blank in 26. But don't know what the permutations are. I can't remember. But anyway, I like him as a pick, and I think I need to readjust because I don't really want to be bringing in players that I think are 70-minute players, particularly when we've got others on offer. But actually, I think I probably need to readjust that, and maybe his minutes should be higher. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, the thing we don't know at the moment is how Werner's going to sit in, like where he's going to start him. He could start him straight away, as you say, like Kulusevski in the 10, have Brennan on the right, and I think that works really nicely. I think that's how we should start, in my opinion, because the pace that we will have wide will be fantastic. And Richarlison he's just a problem, right? He's just a problem in the fact that he annoys defenders, and and he's just he does get chances. I mean, I think we'll lack a touch of creativity without Lo Celso, because I think Lo Celso's done his hamstring. He might be the 12th player this season to do his hamstring. But we'll have Kulusevski, and I don't even know who would play alongside him, to be honest. I'm just trying to think who's even available, because obviously Basuma and Sarr aren't there. Højbjerg probably is going to be in and around it. And Skip, I guess. I guess it's going to be Skip, Højbjerg, and Kulusevski as a 3. I've probably forgotten a player there, which is terrible. Maybe Maddison's back, who knows? But yeah, so I think Werner has to play. I think Werner almost has to play. If he's fit and ready to go, then I think he almost has to. In terms of what I think of Richarlison as a pick, there's very similar. He's not the same kind of player, but I just get the same feeling as I do with Darwin, and I just don't like having that frustrating pick that. Sure, fine. He gets good chances, and I wouldn't mind having an average finisher if they've got loads of chances. But he's not an average finisher; he's below average, and it's frustrating owning. I know. The thing is, if it was Son, I wouldn't even be thinking about the fact that there's a blank coming up. But the fact that it's not Son, and it's Richarlison, and Son's coming back, and we've got a blank coming up, I can't see myself doing it. I don't think it's a terrible pick, but I'm not going to turn around and say it's a bad pick, because, as you said, we create chances, and because we are a sort of system style team rather than reliant on a couple of people, we still generate those chances, even missing Maddison, even missing Son. Bissouma comes out, Sarr comes out. We still do create chances, so he will still get some, and. So he will still get chances. I think he'll get chances this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Am I confident that he'll convert them? I don't know.
Mm. And then one thing on top of that, which I sort of don't like, because I like you, I don't want those players, but he gets angry as well and frustrated, doesn't he? Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like if and when he does miss a couple, he gets angry, and then there's the chance of bookings and stupid things and stupid decisions and sort of body language all over the place.
Yeah, he goes into himself.
It's coming off. Yeah. And that's when he's potentially coming off.
He almost goes full Balotelli in that mode.
Yeah, but then you look at the numbers, and the numbers are silly, and you think, well, hang on a minute, there's a guy getting whatever it is, 0.6, 0.7 xG per 90 at the moment, and I'll buy a ticket to that when I wasn't going to get him originally, but as I say, I might have to make 3. I might make 3 midfielder transfers this week now, and. At the moment, I prefer him to Foden. I think just because they both got minutes problems, but then you just got one of them is just the 9. He's scoring goals. His numbers are much better, and he's probably on penalties. Obviously, Foden's got the likely double, which is what makes it closer for me. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, if I bring him in, it's not like I'm thinking, oh yeah, I've got Richarlison. I'm not feeling particularly optimistic. But then he scored 4 or 5 in the last 4 or 5 in the last 5 or 6. Yep. So he's doing it because he keeps getting those chances. Like you say, maybe Lo Celso is a big loss, but Kulusevski in the 10. Spurs.
Bentancur is the player that I'm missing. I can't believe no one's called me out on that. Bentancur.
Sorry, I wasn't thinking myself.
But yeah, probably be Bentancur in the 6, which would be fine, I guess.
Oh, so Bentancur's fit, is he?
As far as I'm aware, he should be fine. Yeah, Bentancur should be fine.
That many injuries.
Yeah. No, I think Bentancur's fine. It'd be Bentancur, Højbjerg, and the other player that I mentioned, Kulusevski.
Yeah. Richarlison. Yeah, Johnson. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I'm not decided yet. The numbers are there. Sometimes if you can't decide and you're stuck, and I just think. All the numbers there, so now I think the minutes are more secure than I had thought. Yeah. But obviously, I think the numbers start to drop. The minutes start to drop. Maybe precipitously, but yeah. I like it. At the moment, I'm going to bring him in as it stands for a hit. Fair enough. When you bring him in for a hit, it's even harder. I probably need to hit a midfielder in just to play 11 players this week.
Okay, well, I mean that's fair. That's fair enough if you're missing a player. Otherwise, I would start finding a different narrative and call one of your other transfers the one for the hit, so it doesn't sound like you've brought in Richarlison against United for a hit.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can do that actually. I
Yeah.
can do that.
The other one, I mean, I think you've really covered it on the Brighton side anyway, because we were talking about it through wildcard, right? If you were on a potential wildcard, like the fixtures are just insanely good for Brighton. And, they're now moving into a period where they obviously don't have all the Europa crap that they've got to deal with. And so, rested Brighton, sunning themselves up in Dubai right now. They'll have a week off and then they'll have another week off. And because of Europa and they qualify top of their group, they get extra time off in terms of one game per week. So like if you wanted to go in on Brighton, like this is the perfect time. And I would, get in as heavy as you can almost before Europa kicks back in. And I think you could be, it could pay dividends. I mean, there are assets in there. I mean, we all know Estupiñán is quality. It may improve them defensively, one, having him back, two, having more rest. I mean, that's always helpful. Obviously they've lost Adingra and Mitoma to the Continental Cups that they're in, but Gross ticks over. Obviously March is injured, which is a bit of a shame. And then João Pedro low-key looks like a really good pick. And obviously on pens. So there's almost like right now there's three standout assets within that side. And I can't find many reasons not to go to. I could find an argument to go to each one of them.
Yeah, agree. This is the time, and these are the fixtures. I do find it quite amusing though, this Gross snowball that's taken place over the last 2 weeks, where Pascal Gross has gone from being like Pascal Gross to being essential and to being a potential captain. And I just think it's
there.
I know, but people are talking about it, and I don't see it myself. Obviously, he's a good pick. He's a solid pick. Let's not forget, at the moment, as it stands, based on the team we expect to play, is not on penalties. So it's just Pascal Gross, and he's just like, he's got a good assist threat, and he plays 90 minutes, and it's fine. But I think there are other players I personally prefer that also play 90 minutes. So, but obviously, some people might need it for the price. I think I still prefer other cheaper players anyway. Again, we'll come to that with moves. So, Gross is solid. He's not one for me. And then Estupiñán's obviously great. But I do think there are question marks there with Estupiñán. I'm not really sure what's going on. He seems to be playing left centre back at the moment, and he played last game. And I think at the moment, I don't know, like Neil's got him predicted to start left centre back again. And I heard that, that's what I've heard people say. They've signed this left back. Does that mean that, are they prepared? I mean, they do need a backup left back, so I'm sure it doesn't. But maybe Estupiñán's going to get sold. I doubt it, but there's a question there. But if Estupiñán's playing left centre back, it's nowhere near as good a pick. Maybe he's going to go into the front three or something with this new left back or something. Who knows? Maybe. But there are question marks there. It's not just Estupiñán's amazing, and Brighton's defence has not been brilliant. So he doesn't frighten me. Maybe he should. Maybe I'm missing something, but he doesn't frighten me like he did in game week 1.
Yeah, he didn't frighten me at the start, which is why I didn't have him at the start, and then he racked up a shit ton of points, which was rather annoying. Cool. I think we need to move on to. We've been going like 45 minutes already, so I think we need to move on to our teams. So what I'll do is I'll just touch on. I just got Baker's squad here, just so everyone knows what he's going through. He's obviously ill, but he's got flags on the pitch as well, all over the place. So, he obviously can only play one keeper. So he's got Areola and Dubravka. I assume he'll pick Areola there for the game against Sheffield United rather than Dubravka against City. His defence as it stands is Saliba. Trent is obviously not playing. Pedro Porro, Gusto, Kabore. So Kabore is obviously AFCON. Bowen, injured. Saka, Palmer, Salah and Son. Obviously they're away. Solanke, Watkins and Archer. So not only has, and sorry for pointing this out again, mate, not only has he got 5 players that are flagged, he's got Archer on top of that, and we don't even know like how much trust Chris Wilder's putting in him at the moment, because he's started like McBurney over him and stuff like that, which is not really the best thing in the world. And then he's also sitting on double Chelsea and Pedro Porro, having 3 players who are going to blank in 4 weeks' time. It's a very he's got 2 free transfers and he's got 3 million in the bank, so he can do what he needs to here. But I think he's going to need to take a hit of some kind. But he hasn't revealed in any detail what he's going to do yet. So I guess he will do that over the next day or so if he can recover himself properly. I guess he's been chatting with you guys about ideas and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's thinking about Foden and Richarlison, I think.
Yeah.
There's a double move, and then he probably. I mean, I don't know, but I think he probably does need a hit. We don't need a hit. I mean, I've got the same issues with the 5 flags, except I've got Mobama where he's got Archer. So, and I've got Trippier. I'm gonna have to play where he's got Gusto. So I'm gonna probably take a hit. So it's really annoying, 2 free transfers. But I'd say it's probably advisable. But if he is going to hit, I'm not sure where he's going with that third transfer.
Fair enough. We'll let him work it out, and let's move on to your team. Let's look at your team before we move on to mine. So read it out for people that are listening. But you've got 2 free transfers, 1.1 million in the bank. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So I've got Areola starting in goal at the moment. I've got Trent, Gabriel, and Porro. Bowen, Palmer, Saka, Son, Salah, Watkins, and Solanke in a 3-5-2 at the moment on the pitch. Dubravka in goal. Dubravka sub, and then Taylor first sub, Trippier, and then Mobama. So obviously, yeah, I've got 5 flags. I don't think Taylor's going to make it personally. I'm just guessing here, so I just don't think he's going to make it. I was trying to do some research about it, and I looked at what Company had said after the game, and he said something like, he was talking about the Foster, I think, who was injured, and he sounded more positive about Foster, and he said, hopefully we'll get Foster back soon. And then he said, but with regards to Taylor, I think rather than an acute issue, it's more of a chronic one.
Okay,
was the quote. So that doesn't sound particularly positive to me. So anyway, I'm going to base everything that I'm saying on the basis that Taylor's probably not going to play. I don't think Bowen's going to make it. He might just be, he might be out for a long time. Probably come back to that, but with Bowen, like a lot of these decisions, it's about making a bet on what you think based on the information we've got. And I think based on what the information we've got is that pretty much whether he's had a scan or not, I don't think he has, but I think it's pretty much he's not had a scan because it was so swollen. So that just says to me, it's a bit like the Haaland injury. What we know at the moment, based on the way I see it, is that he's out for at least 2 to 3 weeks. That's how I see it. So it's very possible / likely that given that's the best case scenario. So it's actually more likely that he's out for a little bit longer or much longer. So I'm not going to. It's just I don't think I'm going to hold out for that. I think I'm going to have to sell him. And so I've got Trent. I don't really. Again, I might be missing something. I don't really get / buy into this idea of selling Trent personally myself. I understand why some teams have done it. I understand it's team dependent. It depends on what money you've got and what midfielders you've got and so on. But I just think, again, like Trent is a ridiculous option right now. Like I think Trent right now is better than he's ever been in terms of FPL and real life. He's like a level above what he's ever been. That's how I view him at the moment. Like he's gone to another level. Again, he just walks around like he knows he's the best player on the pitch. So you're definitely going to want him back. And that might be obvious, but we're assuming Liverpool are going to double in 25. You're going to want Trent back. They said he's probably out for 3 weeks, which is, I assume though that quote has come from the doctor. So let's just assume that he's supposed to be out for 3 weeks. So he'll miss 1 or 2 games, maybe 3. But I think 24 is Burnley at home. So anyway, you're going to want Trent back. So if you take Trent out, you're bringing in probably a Stupinan or City defender, unless I'm missing anyone in terms of thinking ahead. You're bringing in a Stupinan or a City defender. So if you bring in a Stupinan, fine, but I think there are potential issues there. If it's fine, it's great that you've got him, he's a great pick. But in terms of taking Trent out, you bring in Stupinan, fine, but there are question marks there. He might be playing left centre back. He's just been in a long-term injury, and so on. And so if you are bringing a Stupinan in, to me, probably the way I see it at the moment in terms of the second best City picks for a double that looks very likely at the moment in 25 is probably a City defender. Yeah. Foden's good, and these players are good, great, whatever. I think objectively, the way I would view it is that a second best pick is probably a Kyle Walker or a defender over a double game week where you're going to get 2 games.
Yeah.
So if you're doing Trent to a Stupinan, you're also going to need to do another defender transfer to get a City defender optimally, I would say. And then you're going to need to do another defender transfer to get Trent back. All the while you've got 14 million or 24 million pounds worth of midfielders on your bench for however long, and I don't really get this idea of keeping Salah or Son. I understand, again, some people are comfortable, they've got 11 players, they can wait till next week to make the move. I can't, so it's different. But again, with Salah and Son, what we know now, and the game is too tough now. It's too hard. Every week counts. The information that we know now is that they're definitely missing next week, probably the week after. I was just looking at the odds earlier, and I think Egypt are 5th favourites in the bookies for the AFCON.
Yeah,
so they're up there, and then obviously South Korea are 2nd favourites. And listening to Sonaldo and stuff, he was saying they've got the much better second half of the draw. Japan are favourites, but they're in the other half of the draw. South Korea got a very favourable draw. Anyway, I think selling Son is just pretty much a given anyway. But what we know is that he's likely to be out for 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and then he's going to blank in 26. What we know about Salah is that he's probably out for 2 weeks. Every chance it's 3. Very reasonable chance it's 3 or 4. So we're talking about game week 24. That's a lot of weeks in the season. There's not enough weeks in the season in the game that's so tight now and so hard to play around with that cash. For me, you keep Trent because he's absolutely, not to say essential, but he's as important arguably as Salah. I see him as that good, especially when he's a lot cheaper. So for me, rather than messing around with all these defender transfers, and this is the thing, is like a few weeks ago, we knew this time was coming, although it's been put back a bit in terms of the doubles and stuff. The reason I brought Trent in and made these defender transfers like Trippier and so on a couple of weeks ago when Haaland was out and spreading that cash, the purpose of that was to get these defenders in place when there aren't many good defenders. There just aren't. As I said, we mentioned Stupinan, but the defenders, you're not getting a lot of clean sheets out of them. There's only 2 or 3 or 4, two or three tops that are potentially very good defenders. And it sounds silly, but you have to own 5 defenders.
Yeah.
You have to own 5 defenders. So that puts someone like Trent's value up to me, because in a pool of 4 defenders, he's incredible, absolutely incredible, and you have to own 5. So have him there and leave him there, and that's the same way as same reason I've got people like Gabriel and Porro in place, because Salah and Son are leaving. So I want to spend the transfers there. I want to use this money to go for these opportunities, whether they fall or not, to go for these midfielders where the ceiling's potentially high, people are going to be moving for them, and so on. So I don't really understand the selling Trent thing, certainly not for my team anyway. I'm just going to happily leave him there, hope/expect him to be back in. And again, even if it's the Arsenal game, it's in like 2 or 3 weeks. We've just seen Trent play Arsenal twice. And I know that doesn't. It's not like something you go off concrete evidence, but once in the cup and once in the league, they both should have been like 15 pointers.
Yeah,
he should have had 15 or more points. So he hit the bar in the league game. That was without a clean sheet, and then in the cup game, it was a clean sheet, and he hit the bar again. In those big games,
was that a ridiculous one from the basically the byline as well, wasn't it? I mean, I think definitely I think even more so if you're in a 3-5-2, like a committed 3-5-2, like yourself and Baker are with an Obama and an Archer, then selling Trent seems ridiculous, because you don't have the 8th attacker to kind of carry that defender on there. If you've got the 8th attacker, I think you can. Sorry, it makes more sense to hold him. But if you've got the 8th attacker, then you can hold. In theory, you can hold Salah or Son, probably more likely Salah, for longer if you need to. But at the same time, what you're kind of doing is you're kind of freeing up money to get all the way up to Haaland, to get one of your forwards up to Haaland. And I think you've put it quite well, to be honest, mate, that you're going to want Trent back. And if you use Trent money to get to Haaland, you can't get back. like you just can't get back. You've got to come down from Saka or Salah, or a Bowen's got to become, fodder or whatever. You've almost got to commit to a 3-4-3. And again, that sort of goes back to, I guess in pieces, it goes back to what I'm saying about team value at the start, in that I'm hoping that, having built some, hopefully it will help me in the few weeks. So what transfers are you locking in, Richarlison?
No, I need to think about that tonight and more. I mean, the two transfers I'm going to make to me, which again they're not, but they are to me, are fairly obvious for me.
That's cool. It's team selection, mate. It's your team selection. So
double United mids.
weirdly, I half picked up on that a little bit earlier. Wow, double United mids, Garnacho and Bruno.
Yeah. I mean, Garnacho, I just view them separately. So Garnacho for me just looks, why not? I think he's undervalued. He's undervalued. He's just a brilliant pick, but also like it facilitates a lot for me. Like I want to stay in a 3-4. I want to move to a 3-4-3, should I say? Because I don't plan to sell Solanke or Watkins at the moment. So obviously, it gives you that cash, and I just think he's just a great pick as well. First of all, Garnacho at the moment, he's pretty nailed in the United team. He's playing in the front three. He's moved to the right where he's looked really effective. We'll talk about United, but I do like what they look like at the moment. Obviously, we've said that before, and obviously United are crap and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, fine, but I quite like what I'm seeing at the moment. But to view them separately, Garnacho seems pretty easy to me because he's got great fixtures. So you've got him on the bench there with great fixtures for the next 6 or 7 or 8 weeks. Yep. I'd play him this week, but you could need him at any point, and it just looks easy for me. Garnacho, 4.8.
I mean, even so 26 he's home to Fulham, and 29 he's home to Sheffield United. So like you've locked up those weeks as well if you need him for those weeks. Like he's just perfect. And as you say, exactly. enabling other moves. I like the Garnacho move.
Yeah, and he's either underwhelms or he's not very good, he loses his place, and it's fine because he's 4.8, so he stays on the bench. Exactly. Or he's an amazing United attacker that plays in a team that's suddenly going to start looking better with great fixtures. So it's just easy. So I'm not complicating that one. So then it becomes about the second pick. So again, like for me, going around the houses, I just think I said it about Odegaard, but there's a lot to be said for a player who is on 90 minutes, penalties, free kicks, corners. It's Bruno. Like, I don't forget, it is still Bruno Fernandes. I know that we're crap at the moment. I know he's not done anything at the moment. I know people aren't going to like the pick. But obviously, part of that is like, I do quite like what I'm seeing with United at the moment in the last couple of games. People are not going to like that either. But the players are playing for the manager at the moment. They are playing for the manager. You can see that. There's a lot, there's a lot of effort going on. And suddenly, a lot of things have changed. Like, Mainu looks brilliant in centre midfield. Rashford is suddenly starting to look better again, and he's on the left, and he really stretches teams and like makes things happen. People have to go and defend him. Opens up a lot of space. Suddenly, you've got Mainu and another centre fielder, and Bruno Fernandes a bit further forward. Rashford's making things happen, and Garnacho looks good on the right. And Højlund, again, this is me. Everyone's thinking, what is this guy on about? But this is me persuading myself as well. But this is, with the caveat that United are crap. But Højlund also, the guy can't finish, but his movement's brilliant. He gets great chances. He's a big unit. He causes problems for defenders. So I just quite like what I'm seeing. They looked, it was just Wigan, but they looked really effective against Wigan. And I just think that doesn't mean that I think Bruno is definitely going to be great, or that it's a great pick at all. But I then take Bruno with those, those attributes, and I look at him compared to a Foden, who's he's great, but Foden's numbers aren't great. His minutes aren't fantastic. They're going to drop a fair bit. Is a double in 25 for Foden really a double? Maybe. He is first choice. It's definitely going to start the next couple of games. What happens by 25, we don't know. But his minutes aren't fantastic. Same with Richarlison. His minutes aren't fantastic, and it's Richarlison. Who else? There's probably a few others. I mean, people as Mark Gross and Douglas Luiz. Well, okay, fine. They're cheaper, but then neither of them as good as Bruno. They're not. Gross doesn't have penalties. He's a good pick. And Douglas Luiz is just Douglas Luiz, so he's got penalties. But to me, Bruno stands out, and I like it because he'll be really low owned. It's an opportunity there. I really like the Spurs fixture. 4 goals, and for United, I think it suits us perfectly in that particular game. So I just sort of come back to that point of I'm looking at Bruno with good fixtures versus a Foden and a Richarlison. Coming up to a period where we're going to have loads of transfers to make. There's chaos. There's defenders injured. There's midfielders getting injured. Bruno's just sitting there 90 minutes, penalties, free kicks, corners, not chilling, not bothered.
I've been there, mate. I've been there. I did it. He missed a penalty. He's never coming in my side again. It's like, I mean,
And he gave one away, didn't he? Or did he miss one and gave one away, didn't he, when he was in your team?
He literally gave one to Rashford. Yeah, he literally gave it to Rashford, and then the next game he missed a penalty while I was live on stream. So yeah, he's that's. So I'm just looking at the chat, and the chat know that I'm looking at the chat because I'll just have to read some of the comments.
I'm going to have to look now. Should I look?
Well, I'll read. I'm going to read them all out, mate. To be honest, transferring Bruno in is absolutely insane. Danny reminds me of a guy I did shrooms with in the late 90s. I love that. Man United play 4 of the 5 worst defences for XGC in the next 6, which is good. Andrew Barton said, must be drinking Buckfast. And then Panther says, Adam saw the Buckfast comment and smiled. That's true. That is definitely true. FN ends with Danny on one. They're not. I've watched every game. They've been awful. Manon says, I wonder what's in that beer. What's the date? Is it? What date? What's the date? Is it April the 1st? Brilliant.
Harry says he's just tuned in and now he's leaving.
Tuned in.
That's why we saved this until the end.
Perfect. Christian Ashley's dropped a super chat. Says, João Pedro captain. Join my international league, boys and girls. It would be a pleasure to have you here. Well, seeing as you've been very kind, dropped a super chat. If you want to join Christian Ashley's league, the code is TVG2ZY. You can go and join that league because our league is closed. Because our league was only open until the end of the first wildcard window. Because we don't like people coming in like game week 37 and just winning the league. We want people to earn it in that second half of the season. And if they win it, then they've been in it for like 18 weeks. And so you deserve to win it. Brilliant. But what's the chances he misses 2 pens? Ole's asked me. Well, I mean, the chances of him missing a pen, generally speaking, is independent of the one that he missed before. So, you know, I guess he should score.
I mean, the thing is with Bruno, right? Again, this will come back to bite me. It's not like I feel really optimistic about Bruno, but I don't feel optimistic about anyone in particular. Yeah. So how much is there to lose? I just view it as like, what is there to lose really? Like, I've got a good feeling about the team and the player, and he plays 90 minutes and he's on penalty, so I'm not too bothered about taking that risk. It's not like I'm.
And is it a case? I guess is it a case of like, you know, if when it comes to it, like he's the cash cow for Salah, like he just goes for Salah.
No. He could do, but probably not. Probably not. No, because as you said, like it depends if he's rubbish for the next 4 weeks, then yeah, exactly fine. But as you said, in like 26, he's got like Luton away or something, and he's got Fulham or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, you bring in a so like I was speaking to Baker about this last week, and we were talking about KDB, right? And I think I'd feel more. It'd be really difficult to sell KDB for Salah in my mind. I mean, no. Let me put it a different way. KDB could play himself into a position where it'd be really difficult to sell him over Salah. Whereas I feel less confident that Bruno can do that. And I feel like if I was to bring in Bruno, for example, then I feel I could be more comfortable in selling him to get up to Salah, back up to Salah, I guess. I mean, his numbers are fine at the moment. I mean, he's a minutes pick. I get it. In a world full of chaos, like he's just there, right? And he's not doing terrible things. I mean, granted, I hope that he does absolutely nothing this weekend, of course, but that's where me and you differ, I guess.
Yeah, and I think he's more than a minutes pick, but he could be, he could not. I don't. It's a risk that I don't mind taking because it's a cushion when you've got someone who's playing there. I think he's better than people think, but obviously, not that optimistic, but it's fine. I just don't particularly like the others. But yeah, as you say, it's selling them both. Obviously, that's with I then have the money to do Mbama to Haaland if I want to. Which I'm sure we will next week. So yeah,
cool.
And then I suppose it's a third mid. It's whether I go Richarlison, whether I go Bowen to Richarlison for a hit, or I could go Bowen to Foden, which is still an option, and I might do, as I do like Foden, but I'm not wild about it. So annoyingly, it'll be a -4, 3 transfers, which is really annoying because I think Taylor's going to miss out and Bowen's going to miss out.
Fair enough. And then I can give you my team. So I've got a lovely little Christmas tree going on. So I feel like I have to explain this every time I do it. But so I've got Areola in goal. I've got Gabriel, Porro, Estupinan, who I brought in for Kabore already. Trent and Anderson. And then midfield is Salah, Son and Palmer. Palmer cap right now. Watkins and Solanke up top. And I have Gordon, Alvarez and Foden on the bench. And if you've been living under a rock, I am Mr. Bench Wanker. And the reason Newcastle and City players are on the bench is because they play earliest in the week, so they stay on the bench the longest. So those points will stay there. And like genuinely it happened. Like the last time we had it happened perfectly because my mum, I'm in a family league with my mum, and my mum sent a text like the day before the end of the day before the end of the game week. There was still a game on the Monday, and she was happy. I mean, I'm doing badly, but she was happy. She was top of the league, and I was like, well, actually, she's not. Once my bench points kick in, so that's why you do it. Little fun things like that. Sorry, Mum. And yeah, so I've got one free transfer to make. I've got 3.3 in the bank. I mean, my decision really comes down to a couple of things. So, one, do I need to give myself a different option for captaincy? Maybe, and that maybe just because Saka might be just by far a better option than Palmer. And also, it's just about the route that I may want to take. And I'm the kind of manager that will get a couple of transfers in my mind and then I kind of just stick to it. So, KDB comes back, starts doing all the stuff that he does in the cup against Huddersfield, which is just Huddersfield. But and I know he's not looking to start, but I can block a path. I can block getting to him if I bring Saka in this week for my second transfer, which would be for Son as it stands. And so if I do that, then I'm done, right? And I'm fair enough. I can probably then, choose to do whatever next week. I guess I've probably got to bring in Haaland next week, and then I can decide what to do. But if it transpires that actually for Burnley, for example, I want KDB, I can't do it if I bring in Saka, but I can do it if I bring in Gross this week. I can also do it if I don't make another transfer, obviously. But I'm now sort of toying up in my mind what's better. Is it Anderson away at Arsenal plus a transfer? So I get a transfer out of it. Is it Pascal Gross? And then the option to go to KDB. And if KDB doesn't appear to be an option, then, I can always go to Saka next week. But obviously I've missed out on Saka at home to Arsenal. Or do I just go Saka now? And then do I look at the captaincy switch? Because I'm okay with Palmer as cap. I do think it's a week that you could probably go a little bit different as well. I know there's going to be some big ownerships. There is potential for it to be painful, but I think differential. I think a differential captain will be. I think there's going to be at least 5 players that are above that are going to score higher than like Palmer and Saka, and there's no data to support that. That's just kind of like it's going to be one of those weeks where a player is going to just outperform all the popular picks. It's just going to be I feel it's going to be kind of like that week, just because of the way the fixtures are set up and stuff like that. So
if you get, you're saying if you get Gross, it means you can get KDB. So if you don't get Gross, does it mean you can't get KDB? Do you need the money? Or if you get KDB, you're still getting Haaland as well next week?
I'll still get Haaland next week. Yeah, I can still get Haaland next week. It may change. I mean, if I choose to get KDB, then I need to do Haaland for Alvarez. If I don't choose to get KDB, then I can do Haaland for Solanke, for example, and I can keep Alvarez. Because if KDB is not an option, then Alvarez's minutes are up. So there's a few things I need to balance there. I feel like having the extra week of information would be good. At the same time, I've just waxed lyrical about how important it is or how useful it could be to go big on Brighton now. I'm kind of torn at the moment, and it's the first time this season I've been really kind of back and forth with what I want to do, which may put me into the position where I go, you know what? Anderson went to Old Trafford and got 15 points. I might just roll this and see what happens. And again, because it's actually it's a double whammy, right? Because I'm playing Anderson against one of the popular captain picks this week. So like if Saka bangs, Anderson doesn't get any points. Like if Saka blanks, Anderson could potentially have 6 points, and that would be monstrously big. People are selling him in droves this week. He's got Sheffield United in a couple of weeks. I kind of want to keep hold of him. So I'm kind of... It's more about who's going to get the most points, right? Obviously, but I don't know. I guess in the back of my mind, I feel comfortable. I mean, obviously, I feel comfortable not putting an Arsenal player into my team, and that's kind of sitting with me as well. Like,
don't let that come into it.
it's difficult though. It's difficult though because like I don't mind. Like if it was a player that was like I desperately needed to have in, and it was like a Spurs player, then I would do it. If it was not an Arsenal player, I would probably do it. But by not having them, I don't know. I've worded that terribly, but you know what I mean.
I mean, I kind of know what you mean. Like, it doesn't feel like a fun pick, does it? So it's difficult when you don't own someone like Saka, and you sort of feel like you're bringing him in to be in line with like most other managers. But he's such a solid pick at the same time.
At the same time, that's what I was saying that I was going to do for at least another 4 or 5 weeks, because I'm still like 2.2 million, so I still kind of need to get in with the crowd. And I was having this discussion with Harry like a week and a half ago, last week when Ragaboli Live FPL, he released all those clones. How many clones do you have in the top million? And like the most clones is in the top million is 3,580, I think it was.
Like, they're all Andy's team.
Yeah, Andy's team and Harry's team, and they're like, "Are you boring?" People were literally saying, "Oh, you're so boring, your template." Like in the top million, 0.358% of people have that team. You're telling me 0.358 is a big number? I mean, like it's not that big. It's differential in itself. So coming back towards the template, and like Saka is the most owned player in the game. So like he's owned more than Haaland for now. So do I just make that move and just therefore take less pain, because it will be painful if I don't bring him in?
Well, I don't like the KDB pick. I don't understand it. I don't know what you wanting to happen there. Like, oh yeah, it's KDB, but I think it's unlikely that we're going to see like KDB suddenly starting games and then scoring loads of points. Like he's been out for so long. He said it himself. It's going to take him a while to come back, and he's basically got new hamstrings, which is always a worry because stretching your legs and really running there, you'd feel nervous doing that as a player. So I don't like that. I just think if you're gonna pick a player and you want to have some fun with a player, pick a player who plays.
Yeah.
Because at least then you're covering that aspect of the bet. Like you're picking a guy that might not play, and then if he does play, he has to not get injured, and if he does play, he has to play more than 60. And if he does play, he has to play in that further forward role and actually be match fit and actually do the things he used to do. There's just too many. You're hoping for a small percentage bet, so I don't like it.
So it's a case. That's fair. I think that's fair if he was a pick. I think that's fair. Even more so if I was going to bring him in this week, which I like the people bringing him in this week, genuinely insane, because one, he's evidently not ready. Two, he said he's not ready. So, and three, Pep won't play him unless he's 100%, or he won't start him unless he's 100%. So, it makes no sense to me to bring him in this week. But what about
Doku? Yeah, I've not seen anyone own him this season, and he looks really good.
Yeah, it's great. He's great. I mean, like in terms of City's next, in terms of City's next game, so they've got Burnley, Brentford, Everton. To be honest, those three, Burnley, Brentford, Everton, and Bournemouth in the next 5. Like they just scream Doku. Yeah,
I like it. Maybe you just go round 2 just to see if you can get the redemption.
Imagine that. That would be incredible, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine that Bournemouth away in 26. I'll be sitting there like the only person with Doku, and he comes in and bangs 22 points. I'm like, yes, I finally got it. I missed the first one, but I got the second one. That's what I needed. Oh, imagine that. I mean, look, I don't.
Maybe you DM Luke or something about that. Someone who I'm not following City about what's likely to happen. I know Grealish is playing well, but I mean, I prefer it to KDB. At least he's cheap. At least he might play. Like at least he's fit. I don't. But I'm not saying get Doku. That's a joke. But I prefer it to KDB.
Fair enough. I mean, like just basically as like a blanket rule, like Luke said, control, Grealish, chaos, Doku. That was like the hard and fast. If you want a rough and ready rule, Burnley feels like chaos. Brentford feels like chaos. They're not in a good place right now. Everton feels like chaos. Chelsea feels like a control game. And then Bournemouth feels like chaos. I don't know. That's where I'm at.
What about Bruno Fernandes?
No, I'm not doing it.
Rashford is by far the most fun pick this week.
I'm not doing it.
Rashford is by far the most fun pick this week. Like, I maybe even captain him.
No chance. Van der Ven's
He plays. You know what's great about him? He plays.
I'm not buying it.
I'm trying to think who else
is he playing? Is he playing though? Did he not just come off the bench like last couple of games?
No. He's definitely playing. He's
or did he only just come off the bench?
He looks really good. He's more fun than Bruno. I just like Bruno because Bruno just. You watch a United game and if the first 60 minutes you think Rashford is the standout, and he is. Rashford could be brilliant, but Bruno then just comes alive in the last 30 minutes of every game, every time, because he's just so fit. He's just relentless. And he always looks like he's going to score in the last 30 minutes, and he actually plays. But yeah, so I like Rashford. Odegaard's good. I mean, Jota's fun. Jota, I prefer that. I much prefer him to KDB as well.
Jota's fun. Diaz is fun.
Just trying to see if there's anyone else.
I mean, I can't. I mean, like it feels weird that Richarlison isn't higher up on my sort of want list almost.
Yeah,
you'd think he would be.
Yeah, and maybe he should be.
Maybe he should be. Maybe that's just the pick. But do I need to do that, or do I just need to get Saka in? I think is the question. And the thing I said 5 weeks ago at 5.2 million is that I need to get back. I've already said it. I need to get myself back in amongst it. And by leaving out the most owned player in the game, I might as well just bring him in.
Yeah, and for me, like I don't want to persuade you too much because this could easily backfire massively. As we know, Palmer could get 15 points, but it could go either way. But if I was you and you're in that position, you're saying that you want to catch up or whatever rank you are, then I would bring Saka in and captain him because he's going to be much lower EO than Palmer. Yeah. You've got a guy who's objectively the best pick this week. The models would say is the best pick this week, and he's a brilliant pick. I remember last season, I'm still haunted by it when I took out. I changed the captaincy last second from Saka at home to Palace to Kane, and he got 18 points. That ended up costing me top 10k. But I know that's not relevant. But yeah, like if I was you, I'd bring Saka in and captain him because it's more of a there's an opportunity there that's backed up by the data.
Sounds good. Hour and 20 minutes. I think we should call it there. I think we should call it a day. Thank you very much to everyone who's joined us. Say a little bit different. Obviously, Baker recovering, but Danny more than able standing. And we always enjoy having Danny on the pod. So, show him some love. Drop a like on the video. Drop a comment and let us know what you're thinking about. If you have any questions, like obviously deadline is 6:15 tomorrow. Yeah, 6:15 in the evening UK time. So if you have any questions, drop them in the YouTube comments, and we can answer anything you have. Hopefully Baker gets well soon. So the schedule over the next few weeks, over the next week or so, because of the mixed up game week or the long game week and stuff like that, we may not pod on Sunday. We're not going to pod on Sunday. So that's not happening. We may pod on Monday, but that's to be confirmed. So we'll come back and let you know on that one. Yeah, I think that's it, man. I think that's it. I guess it's best of luck for everyone for Game Week 21. Thanks to Crypto Block Dan, who sponsors us. He's in a very good place right now. He's very happy with everything that's going on. All crypto, it's all starting to kick off. So if you want to know some more, head over Crypto Block Dan on X, and you can find him there. If you want to support us, just hit the subscribe button. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/AboveAverageFPL. I think I'm done talking. You're drinking beer, so I think that'll do it, mate.
Yeah, nice one, mate. Cheers for having me on. It's good, that.
Catch you later.
See you later, mate.